to say this, but most people just bumble through the day. And those days eventually turn into years. And well, the rest. We've got to get better at living life on purpose. Not only for the obvious reasons of having meaningful, vibrant, and abundant lives for ourselves, but also to be examples for everyone else. And what would that do? Well, it would make our lives more meaningful, fulfilling, and abundant. But we would also be advancing humanity as a whole. It begins today. Every day. Right now. Hi, my name's Matt Stevens. This is my sober addiction. Addicts know full well what it means to be on autopilot. I'd mentioned autopilot in the previous episode. And they do the same things all the time without thought. It's like being stuck in a rut. Everybody experiences this. But when you wake up in the morning and you literally do the exact same thing every single day, it is insanity. And I'm not saying we necessarily expect a different result. I don't know what we expect. That's kind of the autopilot. That's where our brains are just switched off. It's like, well, what do you think is going to happen from that? Well, I hadn't thought about that. That's kind of where it's at with that. I hadn't thought about that. So, humans are self-aware, but there's more than just being aware. We're aware of awareness. We're aware of the fact that we are aware. In autopilot, we just kind of cruise through, stuck in old habits, old routines, things that have never served us and never will. People let life happen around them and react to it instead of taking control of their thoughts and emotions. When things happen around us, we just react until we become aware of the fact that we are aware. And then we take control of our reactions. You don't have to react to everything that goes on around you. And that's something I'm working on. I'm really trying hard to learn how to control my thoughts, really trying to control my reality. Because everything that goes on around me doesn't necessarily have to happen to me. I don't have to participate. Now, there are things, of course, that are outside of my control. And I can observe that and let it go. I don't have to participate. And yeah, there are some things that are going to happen to me that, again, are outside of my control. And it is going to affect me. I'll deal with that when it happens. Or not. Sometimes it's better to just let it roll off. Sometimes it's better to not assign blame to anybody or anything for any situation. Because when you assign blame, if something happens in your life and you assign blame to someone, for example, because this thing happened, well, now you kind of have to wait for that person to make it right before you can move on. Because now they have to apologize, and Lord knows they may never even see that they did anything wrong. And that's going to have to be okay. That's where we have to be spiritually mature enough to let it go. Because if we don't, if we assign blame to someone for something that happens, again, we have to wait for them to make it right. So that before we can move on. And that's not where we want to be. Because it might take our entire lives. And then some. I'm not giving anybody control over my life anymore. That's what I do know. Now, how I'm going to get there, I'm working on it. And I hope that as a community, we can all kind of work on it together. If we can begin today to live more meaningful and abundant lives, I think we can begin to show others that they can too. And if not you, then who? You're the one who's become aware. Be an example. Do we owe it to humanity? Okay, after all the rotten, nasty, just low down things we've done, do we owe it to them? No. I don't think we owe anybody anything. But it wouldn't be a bad thing to do because it would make things better for the whole. Because we are a part of, as bad as humanity is. And I mean, I've often used the analogy of, we look at ancient civilizations, ancient cultures or whatever, and we think that we've evolved from that. We think that we've gotten better than they were. We can even look at the Mayans, and the hell, they even did human sacrifice, supposedly. I mean, I'm not entirely sure about, but whatever. And then ancient Egyptians and all these ancient cultures. Sometimes I feel like if they could see us today, they would be like, my God, you guys are a bunch of damned Neanderthals. What's wrong with you people? You're supposed to be further along than we were. And are we? I mean, some people might argue that we might have the technology. Okay, but the technology has kind of made us worse in a way. Sometimes I feel like we have sold our souls for technology. Sometimes I feel like, is it worth it? Sometimes I wonder if being more of a tribal, more of what what some people would call primitive, would be better. Could it be better? I don't know. And I mean, in the state of the world is right now, we're not going to find out. It's just something I think about. And I think I may have struck a nerve whenever I was talking about living life on autopilot. It's not something we want to face. It's not something we want to admit that we've done our entire lives or for however long. It's really something that kind of hits us and thinks, God, all these years. And yeah, it kind of sucks. I mean, there's not much we can do about, that. But what we can do is we can move forward from here. I've had really mind-numbing jobs, the type of jobs where you can literally zone out, go on autopilot, do your work, and the next thing you know, your shift's over. And that's fine. And I used to think, well, I really like this because I can really do some thinking, get lost in my head and things like that. And sure, things were going on in my head. But at the end of the day, I would look back and hours would have passed and I really couldn't account for them. I really couldn't tell you I could tell you what I did. I was standing there working. Couldn't tell you what went on in my head. I was probably working. Obviously I was working, but I was probably thinking about, I don't know. That's just it. I really don't know. I'm assuming some things probably happened around me that I reacted to. But sometimes we're in situations where we have to work those mind-numbing jobs. Or we have to do mindless work. Or we have to do whatever. But that doesn't mean we have to be completely mind-numb. We can, as I previously stated, we'll call it an awareness alarm. Where we set our alarms on our phones every hour, every 2 hours, whatever you feel like doing. Where that alarm goes off and that reminds us, oh wait, I need to center myself. I need to get aware. And it's amazing how you kind of snap to and you kind of look around and you're like, oh crap, I'm here. It really is kind of like that. And I recommended, just do some breathing. Focus on your breath. Kind of take inventory of your feelings. Or what have you been thinking about? What should you be thinking about? I've got affirmations. I don't care. Some people write goals on an index card. Goals and affirmations are pretty much the same thing, just written differently. And I get those out. I get myself aware, and I'll read those affirmations to myself, just to kind of remind myself the direction I want to be going, what I have decided that I am. In those words, I am, those are probably the most powerful words in any language. And it doesn't matter what religion you follow or what philosophy you adhere to. Like for example, in the Christian Bible, they asked Jesus, "Who are you?" He said, "I am." And that was it. And if you think about it, really think about it, that's all there really is I am. So that's why I use, with my goals, I don't say I want to do this, I want to do that. I say I am this and I am that. And that's what I do whenever I do center myself, whenever I bring myself in, whenever I stop and think, okay, I've been on autopilot for about the past 45 minutes or however long. Remind myself what I am. And then I go on about my day, because you've still got to work, but you can become more. I hate to use the word mindful. I really hate it because it's so trendy now, but whatever, it works. And I'm glad that it's kind of trendy, but, well, I'm not glad it's trendy. I'm glad that people are becoming more aware of awareness. It says a lot about us as a people, that we are maybe, or at least part of us are evolving, getting better. But then again, if you look at us as a whole, wow, kind of like what I said about if the Egyptians or the ancient Mayans or whoever could see us now, they'd probably look at us and think, what is wrong with you people? A bunch of damn barbarians. So getting to the whole living life on purpose, that's why I don't like, and don't, please, I do like a lot of slogans and stuff that NA and AA and all those groups have. But I really don't like the one that says living life on life's terms. Because that pretty much gives your power away. That pretty much says, well, whatever happens, I'm going to roll. I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to deal with it. But that kind of implies that you're going to react. That kind of implies that you're accepting those things. It implies that you're not creating the life that you want. That you're just kind of giving in and surrendering. Now, I do believe that there is a certain level of surrender you need to have, but I also believe there's not. Because what happens to you in the end is up to you. How you get there may or may not be up to you. For example, okay, story time. I had one really, really bad overdose. And, well, the EMTs told me that I really shouldn't have made it. I was out. I don't know. They said that they had hit me, I guess, with Narcan or whatever several times, and nothing was working. And they pretty much given up on me. And then I twitched, jerked, did something. I can't remember exactly what they said. It's not important. I did something, and they were like, oh, shit, let's try him again. So they did. And I came right to. And looking back on that, I realized I kind of had a spiritual awakening. I had some realizations because I was conscious and I was aware while I was out. I'm not saying I was off in the ether. I'm not saying anything because I don't know. What I am saying is it led me to some realizations. It led me to realize that there is a whole lot more going on than what we see. So we need to focus on what we want. Well, we need to decide what we want. Decide that that's what we are and focus on that. Our subconscious mind is amazing. It's a lot more active than our conscious mind is, although we don't see it, but that's because it runs in the background. But nonetheless, you are still the boss. We're still the boss of our minds. So we need to tell our subconscious mind exactly what we want to happen, remind it who's boss, keep it on track, but then let it do its thing. Focus on the what, not the how. Bruce Lipton, I gotta love him. If you don't know who Bruce Lipton is, he's I guess he would be kind of a self-help guru, but he's an epigeneticist. He is a scientist, and I believe he began in stem cell research, and then ended up in epigenetics. Anyway, point is, Bruce Lipton said the subconscious is 1,000,000 times more powerful of a computer than the conscious mind. And there's no way we can try to make our conscious mind keep up with our subconscious mind. There's no way we can build our reality, make our lives how we want it. fully consciously. But what we can do is we run that small computer, or we run the big computer. We run the subconscious. We tell the subconscious what we want to happen, and it's saying that we got to keep on track with it. We got to keep it on track. We got to remind it hourly. This is what we're doing, and how are we going to decide what it is that we want? I mean, that's kind of tricky, because as adults we tend to try to be more, and I'm using air quotes here, realistic. But, if we could just kind of suspend disbelief or judgment or whatever you want to say for just 5 to 10 minutes. Just let it go. Just grab a notebook and journal. And I mean, be as outlandish and as wild as you want. If you want to be a firefighting astronaut mermaid, fine. Obviously, let's keep it, something that's possible. But anything that is possible in this reality, in this world that we live in, is completely possible. But our adult mind, sometimes, if we're in a situation where we're making $30,000 or $40,000 a year, and you decide you want to be a multimillionaire, or you want to own a business, then your mind is going to step in. Your conscious mind is going to step in and say, come on, man, that's not possible. You can't do that. You don't have time for that. Where are you going to get that? How are you going to get that started? You don't even know what to do. Suspend that. Stop that for 5 to 10 minutes. Just go nuts and write a journal. Just whatever your heart desires. Put it in there. It's just going to give you thoughts. It's going to give you things to focus on. It's going to let you know exactly what it is that you do want from life. And most of us addicts do want to help other addicts, because we see them and we hate it for them. My heart breaks every time I see them. And usually I can spot them. I can spot them from a freaking mile away. And if they're suffering, I know it. A lot of times it's because they look like hell. But regardless of that, my heart breaks for them. I'm like, man, I'd like to help you. Of course, all of us want to help them. That's one of the things about being clean. A lot of addicts, whenever they get clean, they want to go and be drug counselors. And that's great. It is. Because we should be of service to other people. I don't necessarily want to be a drug counselor, but I do want to do this podcast. And I want to do it the best of my ability, and I hope that I do help people. But get that journal out. Every day, for 5 or 10 minutes, just let your imagination run wild. Just do it. Also, for about 10 minutes a day, at least to begin with, we need to meditate. I mean, I know some people may be rolling around, oh, I've tried that. A lot of times meditation is something that people would love to do, but they think it's some magical, far away, far off place that spiritual people do, or yogis do, or whatever. They always kind of imagine the Buddhist monk sitting on a mountain in the mist and all that good stuff, maybe by a waterfall, and he sits there for days until he has some big moment of clarity or something. It's really not that complicated. And you really don't have to completely clear your mind, because, in fact, I do a lot of guided meditations, which are very targeted for a specific thing, and that's fine. I do need to get more into just silent meditations. Now that I'm better at meditating, now that I know that it's okay to have thoughts, as long as you just kind of observe them and let them go. Just let them drift by. We don't have to get down on ourselves whenever we have a thought. It's okay. Like I've said before, it's a brain, it's going to think. But we don't have to participate. And what's kind of funny is with the whole journaling for 10 minutes and meditating for 10 minutes, a lot of people are like, man, I just don't have time for that. Just don't have time for it, man. Dude, you used to sit in a car, in a parking lot, waiting for your dope man to show up for freaking hours. Right? I'm right. Hours. And would we do that now? Hell no, we wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't wait for hours for anybody in the parking lot for any reason. Because if they can't have any more respect for me than that, then to hell with it. But back then we were weak and we were defeated, and we had to do that because we were subservient to the drug. But not anymore. No, now we live awesome lives. But now we're focusing on what we want to do from this point forward. And all I'm asking you to do is spend 20 to 30 minutes a day on yourself. 20 to 30 minutes on figuring out what it is exactly you are deciding you want to be. Rebuild relationships. Start a business. I mean, when you're starting from zero, hell, it's not hard. Now, if you're starting from, mildly successful even, yeah, I mean, you may have something to lose. But you've got a lot more to gain than you've got to lose in that case even still. However, when we're coming out of addiction and we got nothing to lose, that's the best time to really do something outlandish. Do something bold. Start a business. I've got a friend of mine who's very interested in doing stained glass art. And he's got an idea that's even more specific than just stained glass, but I mean, I'm not going to get into that here. It's something that I know he would be passionate about. And I'm really pushing him to try to go for it. Why wouldn't you? What do you got to lose? Okay, so maybe you spend a couple $100 on equipment. Maybe you don't have that couple $100 right away. Maybe you have to build at it. I don't know. But the point is, start you an Etsy shop. Start doing some craft or some art or something. And get busy. You never know. But tell your subconscious mind, I am a successful, fill in the blanks. But that's not for just people who are starting at zero. All I mean for people who are starting at zero is you got nothing to lose. If you fall flat on your face, oops, you're still at zero. Big deal. Now, granted, if we're looking at a scale of 1 to 100 and starting at 50, well, yeah, you might have something to lose. But you probably won't. We can become whatever we want. I mean, we did drugs for so long, we know that. We did drugs for so long that we became a druggie or a junkie or whatever you want to call it. And no, it's not something that we set out to do. It's not something we set our minds to. It's not something we instructed our subconscious mind to make happen for us. But it is something that just by repeated behavior, we just did it. So now that we're clean, we did at least learn from that. We did at least learn that, hey, continuous repeated behavior leads to something. It doesn't have to be bad. It can be good. And it does take a little work on our part. It's not a whole lot of work. It's not that hard. Maybe the awareness alarms. Maybe some journaling. Maybe some meditation. Definitely some affirmations. We don't like our jobs. That's fine. We don't. That's not who we are. It's what we do. It's not who we are. And it's only what you're doing right now until your subconscious mind catches up with what you're telling it you want it to do. It's amazing to me because when I decided to do this podcast, I thought it was going to end up being like a lot of other things that I decided to I would like to do. There's a lot of things that I've always said I would like to do. But I kept telling myself that I am a podcaster. And this is before I even had a microphone. This is before I had anything. I am a podcaster. And I started doing things that I swear it still kind of blows my mind that I did it. The fact that I bought a microphone, that I went on Amazon and I pulled the freaking trigger and did it. Now, granted, I needed a computer. I've got other, gear. I mean, you don't need to know all that kind of stuff. But there is just the fact that I pulled the trigger. It blows my mind because those are things that I wouldn't have done because I would have always been a little, oh yeah, well, now's not the right time. Now's not a good time for that. Maybe I'll do that next month or whatever. Firmly believed that I'd convinced myself this is what I am now. This is what I'm going to do with my life and this is what I am. This is how I'm going to impact the world. This is how I'm going to help people. Because I'm not going to be this or I'm not going to be that, but I am going to be a podcaster. I'm sorry, not going to be. I am a podcaster. See, I'm still working on it. I'm a work in progress, if anybody is. So I'm sorry if I sound preachy. This is not, this is not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to be preachy. I'm just something I'm passionate about because I know people can do it. Because I know from my own experience, and I know that any addict knows from their experience what's possible. There was a time in our lives where, or any family of an addict, you've seen them, you've seen how bad it can be. And just the fact that they overcame addiction at all is amazing, isn't it? That should be inspirational for anybody. Not because that person did something inspirational, just the fact that the human being can do that, can overcome such a thing. Because addiction is a ruthless, unforgiving son of a bitch. It will steal, kill, and destroy. And it will not give up on you. So, you have got to want sobriety more than addiction wants you. I've said that before. That's kind of my little quote. You've got to want sobriety more than addiction wants you, and that's a whole lot. Because, once addiction gets its hooks in you, it does not want to let go. It absolutely doesn't. It feels like it owns you at that point, doesn't it? And then whenever we go and try to take our lives back from addiction, oh boy, off to the races, huh? That's when addiction's like, oh, you think you want your life back, do you? Well, let me tell you a little something. Man, that ain't happening. So you have to fight it, right? And that's something that you did. That's something that you've witnessed other people do. And it's amazing. It shows how strong we really are. It shows how much free will we have, how much willpower we have, how anything is possible. I mean, there's addicts out there who were, 5-10 years ago, literally living under bridges, who are now millionaires because they started a business. They went out and bought some construction equipment, a saw, and some hammer and nails. I don't know. I'm not a construction guy. You get my point. And then they just decided, this is what I am now. I was in a rehab with a guy, and that was one of the great things I've heard. He had been an addict for, I don't even know, 15, 20 years. And people would ask him, so do you think you're going to stay clean? And he's like, yeah, but I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. He said, all I'm going to do is, I gave addiction this many years. I'm going to give sobriety that many years too. Just go with it. And I'm like, that's a cool way of looking at it. It's like, I gave that this much, I'm going to give this that much now. So, he didn't really doom and gloom it as far as what he'd been doing. He just said, that's what I was doing. Now this is what I'm going to do. And I hope he's doing well. So anyway, sorry if I'm sounding preachy. As I said, I just am very passionate about this. I think we've got a lot to prove. Not that we have to prove ourselves that we're good people now, but we've got a lot to prove because we can. We're in a very unique position to prove to people how far you can go. You can start at 0 and still get all the way up to 100, even though somebody else is sitting at 80 or whatever. We're in a very unique position, and I'm just passionate about that because I know we can do it. I know how low we've been. So therefore, I know that we can be such an example for everybody else. And then we can inspire other addicts. We can inspire non-addicts. We can inspire whoever needs inspiration. I really appreciate you listening. This is Matt Stevens, and this is my Sober Addiction. If you like the music, it's by a group called Fixate. I am putting their link to their Bandcamp in the show description. Thank you. Love you all.